After entering the book, I discovered that I shared the same name as the protagonist. Naturally, I thought I had become the female lead, so, relying on the protagonist's halo, I directly sought out the male lead, who was still a poor boy, and forced myself on him, even when he said he hated me with reddened eyes. I thought it was just a playful act. It wasn't until the real female lead appeared that I realized he truly disliked me. Heartbroken, I packed my things and prepared to run away. The next second, the male lead pinned me against the wall. "What are you running from? Already tired of playing, baby? The bed in the rental apartment isn't very big, and it's still too cramped for two people to sleep on, so I have to sleep right next to Lucas." And I secretly rejoiced that the bed was small enough, so I could justifiably feel the muscles on his body and snuggle in his arms to sleep. However, there is still a drawback: the small wooden bed is a bit too old. And if you move a little too much, it makes creaking sounds. Like right now, I lifted my tear-blurred eyes, held tightly in his embrace. My ears were filled with the creaking sounds and his heavy breathing. Sweat dampened the strands of hair on his forehead, and a pair of dark, intense eyes were fixed on me. With the slightest movement, droplets of water from his hair splashed onto my neck, only to be tenderly kissed away by him. It was supposed to be a gentle gesture, but right now, I'm so exhausted I just want to curse. Didn't the book say the male lead was gentle? What's with Lucas using so much force? It's been 2 years since I transmigrated into this era's group favor novel. Good news, I share the same name as the female lead. According to the rules of transmigrating into a book, I must have become the female lead. In the book, the male lead started from nothing and built a business empire, then fell in love with the female lead at first sight. When I transmigrated, the male and female leads hadn't met yet, and at this time, Lucas was still just a poor boy. But I don't want to wait any longer. Anyway, it was love at first sight. I went straight to Lucas's rented apartment and started relentlessly pursuing him. I even took advantage of being the female lead in a pampered novel, bossing Lucas around and causing all sorts of trouble. Even when I pinned him down on the bed and he said with reddened eyes that he hated me, I confidently thought it was just a playful act. Until now, I have successfully lived with him for 2 years. As my thoughts wandered, a sudden sting came from my lips. Lucas looked at me with dissatisfaction. "What are you thinking about?" Before I could answer, he suddenly looked as if he had realized something and sneered coldly. "Oh, it couldn't be that glass of milk from earlier, could it? No wonder it's so hot. Did you add something to it again, Kathy? It's been 2 years. And you're still using the same old tricks." I had no words to refute him. After all, when I first transmigrated into this book, he didn't fall in love with me at first sight. Instead, he was extremely cold toward me. In the end, it was only by pestering him relentlessly and slipping something into his drink that I finally got together with him. But there's no use dwelling on that now. I weakly kicked his shin and asked, "How much longer? I'm so tired." I don't know how much time passed. In a daze, I was carried to the bath, washed, and then gently laid on the bed. Yawning, I still managed to explain, "I didn't put anything in the milk." Lucas paused his movement, raised an eyebrow, and asked me in return, "Then why do I feel so hot?" I thought for 2 seconds and said, "Well, because it's hot milk, Lucas." I wrapped my arms around his neck and mercilessly called him out. "If you like me wearing a camisole nightgown, just say it." But I only wore it once and you tore it. And it's chiffon. That fabric is so trendy right now. Lucas turned his head to avoid my gaze, his ears suspiciously red. Who said I like you wearing a nightgown?" I couldn't be bothered to deal with him, too sleepy to keep my eyes open, and fell into a deep sleep. After a long while, Lucas silently adjusted his position to let me lean more comfortably into his embrace. "All right, I'll just buy you another one." Lucas had to go to the construction site during the day, and since I was bored, I found a bookkeeping job. The pay wasn't much, but it wasn't tiring, and I could chat with people to pass the time. In my free time, other girls would come to chat with me. "Kathy, are you still with your boyfriend?" I nodded, yes. She looked at me with pity. "With your looks, why settle for someone working on a construction site? There are plenty of men richer than him." I shook my head. "My boyfriend is a great person, and our relationship is very stable. Except for Lucas being a bit two-faced, everything else is perfect." By evening, I was buried in a pile of accounting books, pretending to work while waiting to clock out. The factory supervisor came in with a girl and introduced her with a smile. let me introduce everyone. This is our new colleague. Her name is Kathy. She will be working with us starting tomorrow. I almost thought I had misheard. What's her name? Kathy. Kathy. Her eyes were bright, and her overall demeanor made people feel an irresistible urge to get close to her. She quickly became familiar with everyone around her. Everyone in the factory gathered around her, giving her a warm welcome. Looking at the enthusiastic colleagues and the unusually gentle supervisor, I finally realized belatedly, this is the true female lead of a group pet story. The true female lead looked at me kindly and said, "Hello, what's your name?" I let out an awkward laugh. Haha, Kathy, Cathy. She looked surprised. Wow, our names are so similar. What a coincidence. It really is quite a coincidence. After all, before this, I always thought I was you. It's over, everything is over now. I went home in a daze, back to my rented room. I began waiting restlessly for Lucas to return. At the time, I was listening to the audiobook and had no idea which specific characters the female protagonist's name was written with. I always thought I had the same name as the female lead. But who would have guessed it was just a homophone? I thought I was finally going to be the main character, but it turns out I'm just an ordinary extra. And what have I been doing these past 2 years? Relying on the halo of the beloved female lead in the story. I had the male lead serve me tea and water. I also set a series of rules for him. A good morning kiss when he wakes up, and a goodbye kiss when he leaves the house. I forced him to use all sorts of embarrassing terms of endearment, like baby, wifey, sweetie. I was just an extra at first, but I ended up turning myself into the villainess. So when we first met, Lucas said with reddened eyes that he hated me. So you really do hate me? What fate awaits a villainous female character? I don't even dare to imagine. I only know that once the male lead becomes powerful, I'll be the first one he comes after for revenge. With a click, the door unlocked. Lucas took off his dirty jacket, revealing only a black work vest underneath. He had broad shoulders, a narrow waist, a wide and sturdy back, with smooth, well-defined muscle lines on his arms. He noticed my gaze and looked over with dark, intense eyes. I stared at his bulging muscles and silently thought, maybe I don't even have to wait until later to get revenge on me. With his current physique, he could take on 10 of me with one punch. The next second, the fresh scent of soapberries mixed with a wave of hormones washed over me. Lucas stopped in front of me, cupped the back of my neck with one hand, and leaned in to kiss me. The kiss was too deep and too intense, and for a moment, I couldn't process what was happening. His other hand tightened around my waist, and just as he was about to go deeper, I finally snapped back to reality, pushing him away abruptly and stepping back in panic. The ambiguous atmosphere came to an abrupt halt. Lucas slowly lifted his gaze, his voice still hoarse. "What are you running from? Didn't you tell me that every day when I come home, we have to kiss first?" His voice was coaxing. "Come a little closer, we're not done yet." I only felt sweat pouring down my back, and I stammered, "And not today." He noticed my resistance, and his tone turned cold. "Not anymore. Kathy, you kiss me when you feel like it, and push me away when you don't. Are you treating me like a dog?" I tried to make an excuse. "I have a mouth ulcer, so let's not kiss for now." Before I could finish speaking, he leaned in, pinched my cheek, and slipped his fingers inside, forcing me to open my mouth. "Let me see where it is." I didn't expect him to act so directly and quickly turned my head to avoid it. His hand froze in place, his expression completely cold, almost gritting his teeth. "Fine, you even know how to lie now, Kathy, you're really something." The book clearly described him as a gentle and considerate family man, but now, looking into his angry eyes, I finally understood. It turns out his tenderness was destined for the true heroine of the favored story, while I was merely an imposter who had taken her place. I truly am both wicked and cowardly. From the moment I inexplicably transmigrated into this book, all I wanted was to survive. So when I found out that I was likely to be targeted for revenge by the male lead, my first instinct was to run away. As long as I run fast enough and hide where the male lead can't find me, once Lucas meets the real female lead, he'll probably forget about seeking revenge on me. I immediately started thinking about when to make my escape. "What are you standing there for? Come and eat." Lucas still seemed upset, his face cold as he finished preparing 3 dishes and a soup. Waiting for me to join him for the meal, Putting everything else aside, Lucas's cooking skills are truly excellent. I couldn't help but swallow my saliva and quietly shuffled over. In the past, I would always have Lucas help me pick out the dishes and cool down the rice before I would eat. But now, I don't dare to act up anymore and just quietly use my chopsticks to scoop up the rice. And I can't help but want to beat my past self for all the trouble I caused, as I ate. I could feel the atmosphere at the table growing even more tense. Why does Lucas seem even angrier? I panicked for 2 seconds, then decided to try to leave a good impression before making a run for it, so I took the initiative to scoot closer to him and poked him repeatedly. "The food you made today was delicious. Thanks for all your hard work." He ignored me, so I kept poking and poking. "I shouldn't have lied to you just now. Please don't be angry, okay?" Sigh. Times have really changed. In the past, he was always the one comforting me. When have I ever been this humble? The tense atmosphere finally eased a little. Lucas's stern expression softened as he glanced at me, suddenly so obedient. "Go ahead, what do you want to buy this time?" "What?" So in his eyes, I've already become such a materialistic person, I thought in despair. Don't even try to clear my name. Maybe I should just hurry up and run away. Lucas finally calmed down, in a good mood. He became very easy to talk to. He even agreed when I said we would just sleep under the covers tonight. The next morning, as usual, he gave me a good morning kiss and made breakfast. The moment he stepped out, I immediately jumped out of bed and started planning my escape. Although I've been in this world for 2 years, I've never left Lucas and am unfamiliar with other places. I had no choice but to call a friend I was relatively familiar with for help. Mobile phones in this era had limited functions and were quite expensive. Lucas had saved up for a long time to buy this one for me. Following my friend's advice, I quickly decided on my escape destination and started packing. There wasn't much I could bring, just a few clothes and money for the bus ticket. The most valuable thing was my phone, which could fetch a good amount of money if sold. After some thought, I placed it on the most visible spot on the table, with a farewell note underneath. Just like that, I bid farewell to the rental apartment I had lived in for 2 years. All the decisions were made very quickly. Even before noon, outside the rental apartment, there was a very dilapidated alleyway. To avoid drawing attention, I didn't take the main road but left through the alley behind the house. The alley twisted and turned, and to catch the earliest bus, I walked faster and faster. Every household had their doors tightly shut, and the alley was silent and desolate. Thinking about my successful escape and how I had managed to save my own life, my steps couldn't help but lighten. I turned another corner of the alley. I looked up with a relaxed mood, and saw Lucas holding a cigarette between his fingers, its glow flickering on and off. He stood tall and straight, leaning casually against the wall. He lifted his head calmly, the smoke blurring his features, and gave me a cold, indifferent look. I wonder how long he had been waiting, before I could even react. A figure darted out from behind Lucas. "Lucas, I told you so. She's trying to run off with the money." Taking a closer look, it was that friend of mine who I got along with quite well. I asked her this morning which place is suitable for living. My vision went black, and I immediately opened my mouth to defend myself. I didn't. My friend wouldn't listen and just kept falsely accusing me. "Lucas, I warned you long ago that Kathy is just taking advantage of her good looks. How could she ever truly settle down with you? She's just after your money." As she spoke, she tried to snatch my bag. Even though I was planning to run away, I really didn't take any money. Feeling guilty, I hugged the bag tightly and said, "I didn't take any money. Do you have any proof to accuse me like that? Then open your bag and let us check it." Lucas couldn't take it anymore. "Shut up." My heart sank. Didn't Lucas even want to hear my explanation? My friend looked at me triumphantly. "Hear that? Open your bag obediently and let us check it. I mean, shut up, Lucas." Lucas narrowed his eyes and looked at his friend without any courtesy. "You can leave now." The friend was furious. "Lucas, I'm reminding you out of goodwill. Don't be ungrateful." She wanted to say more, but seeing Lucas's angry expression, she had no choice but to slink away. For a moment, only the two of us remained in the alley. My mind was filled with the false accusation of embezzlement, and I couldn't wait to explain it to him clearly. "Lucas, I really didn't intend to steal your money. Don't you know what kind of person I am? If you don't believe me, you can check." Before the words had even finished, he interrupted coldly. "Why did you run?" "What?" Without even glancing at the backpack, He cornered me against the wall, his presence pressing in, and asked again, "Why did you run? Are you already bored, baby?" Lucas had never seemed so angry before. He dragged me home, and as soon as we entered, he pinned me against the entryway and leaned in to kiss me. It might not even be considered a kiss, heavier and fiercer than ever. He grabbed my chin and bit down with anger. I couldn't help but cry out in pain and pushed him away abruptly. He curled his lips coldly and was about to lean in again, but when he looked up, he saw the fear in my eyes. Lucas froze for a moment, his anger gradually fading. The words he wanted to question me reached the tip of his tongue, only to freeze into ice, weighing heavily in his heart, unable to be spoken. After a long silence, Lucas's tense voice broke through. "Don't go, please. If I don't leave now, should I just wait to face retaliation later?" I covered the spot on my mouth where it hurt from the bite and said resolutely, "I'm leaving." He almost gritted his teeth. "Kathy, it was clearly you who provoked me first." "Oh no, the male lead has already started bringing up old scores with me." I felt like crying but had no tears left, and very cowardly knelt down. "It's my fault. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have provoked you. I really regret it. Lucas, please let me go, okay?" He looked at me in disbelief, his voice strained. Do you regret meeting me?" Having known him for 2 years, I knew Lucas was inherently a very strong-willed person, but now, after a long silence, he actually asked me, "Why, what did I do to upset you?" There seemed to be sorrow in his eyes, but I didn't dare to dwell on it. Lucas is the male lead, destined to be with the female lead, but I'm just an extra, and I can't keep making the same mistakes. So I hardened my heart and gave a reason: "Because you're too poor, Lucas." I didn't dare look him in the eye and quickly blurted it out, "I'm so young. I don't want to be stuck with you in a tiny rented room. I want to seek a better life. Do you understand? Besides, I like gentle people, and you're always so rough. We're just not a good match." Poor, rough, word by word, it almost trampled his dignity into the dirt, but he still pressed on. "Then what about before? When you said you wanted to decorate the house to make it feel like a home? And that you liked the meals I cooked?" My heart ached with bitterness, and I couldn't bring myself to meet his eyes. It was all a lie. I've long grown tired of those bland, watery dishes. The room fell into a dead silence. "Okay, I'll let you go." He still gave me that phone, saying at least I could keep in touch with old friends, but in the contacts list, aside from Lucas's number, there weren't many others added. I zoned out for a long time, and in the end, I took out the SIM card and threw it away. After all, it's impossible for me to ever see Lucas again in this lifetime. After arriving in the new city, I had to rent a place alone and find a job by myself. During the toughest time, I found a stack of banknotes hidden in the inner layer of my backpack. I took them out and counted them. It was a total of 625 yuan. It was Lucas who secretly put it in the bag. I relied on that money to get through the toughest times until I found a job and gradually stabilized. Slowly, I made many new friends and became the true extra in the story. Life as an extra was simple and peaceful, as if Lucas had never appeared. As time passed, he gradually faded from my mind, and I even thought everything was about to return to normal, but I never expected to see him at a very ordinary dinner gathering. I was dragged there by my boss, who repeatedly emphasized that there was a big shot today who could be very helpful to the project. I casually agreed and opened the door to the private room. Lucas unexpectedly burst into my line of sight, surrounded by people. He sat in the center, his calm and unruffled eyes turning toward me. For a moment, I felt dazed. Over the past 5 years, Lucas had rapidly grown into a rising star in the business world. Even just sitting there, he exuded an intangible pressure, like a mountain, making his presence impossible to ignore. 5 years ago, Lucas might have still childishly bickered with me, but 5 years later, he restrained all his emotions, his coldness piercing like frost. I quickly lowered my head to avoid meeting his gaze, yet he merely glanced over lightly and indifferently averted his eyes, as if looking at a stranger. The boss went straight to discuss the project as soon as he entered, so I wasn't needed for the time being. So I quietly found a corner and started helping myself to some food. Munch, munch, munch. I have to say, the food today is surprisingly delicious. Just as I was eating with great enthusiasm, a hesitant female voice spoke up. "Kathy." I looked up following the sound. "It's really you." It's been so many years, do you still remember me? It was the female lead, Kathy. She was as energetic as ever, like a little sun. We used to work in the same factory, and our names were very similar too. I didn't expect to run into her here. I swallowed the food in my mouth and nodded. Yeah, I remember you. She pinched my cheek sympathetically. How did you get so thin? The chubbiness in your cheeks is all gone. Oh, by the way, why did you leave so suddenly back then? The female lead smiled brightly, her voice so loud that the surroundings fell into a brief silence. Subconsciously, he glanced toward my corner. That familiar, icy gaze fell upon my face once again. I hurriedly lowered my head and casually replied, yeah, I've been trying to lose weight lately. The female lead looked at me disapprovingly and was about to say something more when Lucas's cold voice cut in. Kathy, come here. The familiar syllables came from his mouth, and my heart suddenly beat a little faster, almost instinctively turning to look at him. Lucas wasn't looking at me, he was calling the female lead. The female lead pouted and said goodbye to me. My boss is calling me. I have to go now. She gradually walked away, stepping into the light and standing next to Lucas, a perfect match. They really do make a great couple. By evening, the dinner party finally came to an end. Just as I was thinking about how to get back, my colleague Leo sent a message saying he happened to be nearby and could give me a ride home. I was walking while looking down to reply to the message and didn't pay attention to the path, almost bumping into a pillar in the hall. The expected pain didn't come. Instead, a warm, broad palm pressed against my forehead, touching and then quickly pulling away. Dazed, I looked up and met Lucas's indifferent and distant gaze. From the moment he met me, his reaction has been quite indifferent, and I can't quite figure out his attitude. Now that the male lead has become stronger, I wonder if he'll seek revenge on me. The female lead's gaze shifted back and forth between the two of us before she finally spoke up. Boss, do you two know each other? Hearing this, my heart grew even more tense, and I lowered my head, trembling with anxiety as I waited for his response. No, the female lead still seemed somewhat unconvinced and turned to ask me again, how do you plan to get back? Do you want us to take you? Lucas seemed to let out a scornful laugh. Mind your own business. The female lead didn't say anything more and whispered to me apologetically. He's always like this. I don't know what got into him tonight. I quickly waved my hand and said, it's fine. It's fine, someone is picking me up. As soon as the words left my mouth, Lucas suddenly turned to look at me. Just then, my colleague Leo arrived and waved at me. Let's go, Kathy, I'll take you back. He gently curved his eyes and thoughtfully brought out a hot drink. Here, warm your hands. It's too cold outside, but the car is much warmer. I was dragged away by Leo, and as I thought back to Lucas's gaze just now, I turned around to take another look. But as if he didn't care at all, he had already averted his eyes. It was as if it had just been my imagination. As it happens, Leo lives right above me. After saying goodbye to him on the stairs, I went back home by myself. Running into Lucas again was completely unexpected, and I started thinking about his attitude tonight, seeing how calm he was. He probably doesn't hold a grudge about what happened back then anymore, right? I probably won't have any more interactions with him in the future. As long as I don't show up in front of him again, I can keep this little life of mine. Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang. I was startled and quietly peeked through the peephole to see outside. I saw someone I never expected. Lucas is outside. I panicked instantly. Oh no, has the male lead come to seek revenge on me because he hates me so much? There wasn't much time to think, as the doorbell rang again and again. Seeing that I couldn't delay any longer, I had no choice but to slowly and cautiously open the door just a crack. Leaning against the door, I only dared to peek at him with one eye. Is there something you need? Lucas looked down at me and suddenly spoke. Is he at your place? What, planning to spend the night together? I was a bit confused. Lucas glanced over and saw the spaghetti-strap nightgown I was wearing, his expression turning even colder. You wear this in front of him? I thought for a long time before finally realizing he was talking about Leo, so I hurriedly explained, no, he's not at my place. He raised an eyebrow. Can I still trust you? I got anxious. If you don't believe me, come in and see for yourself. Now, Lucas is sitting on the small sofa, staring at me wide-eyed. The room wasn't very large, and with his long limbs, he seemed a bit cramped. I couldn't help but regret my earlier slip of the tongue. What if he really intended to come in and take revenge on me? Then I'd be in a situation where even crying out to heaven would bring no help. Lucas's gaze swept around the room before slowly settling on my sharply defined chin. Just as I was quietly on guard, I heard him ask me, "How have you been these past few years?" I suddenly realized, oh, this is about checking up on how his enemy is doing lately. No one wants to see their enemy doing well. Thinking of this, I answered with a very sincere expression, "Not well, not well at all, truly miserable." Lucas frowned, as if he hadn't expected me to say that, his voice strained. "Then why have you never called me?" I quickly knelt down to show my apology. "I'm sorry, because I felt ashamed and couldn't face you." Lucas was stunned for a moment, then sharply turned his face away, his voice full of sarcasm. "What's your purpose in saying this now? Trying to make me soften, Kathy? I won't be played by you like a dog anymore." I quickly shook my head. I was too naive before, but rest assured, I really won't bother you anymore. Lucas seemed to frown even more deeply. He sneered, stood up, and looked down at me from above. All the previous mocking and angry emotions were completely restrained, and he turned back into the enigmatic Mr. Lucas. Under my trembling gaze, "Mr. Lucas," coldly uttered. Then I couldn't ask for more. After that, Mr. Lucas did not appear again for a long time. I heard the boss landed that big project and is planning a team-building event to celebrate. Later, the boss got carried away with drinking and kept urging us to drink more. I couldn't refuse and ended up having several glasses. Unfortunately, I don't handle alcohol well, and after just a few drinks, I was completely drunk and passed out. After the team-building event, Leo had no choice but to support me as we walked. He had also been drinking. So in the end, we could only take a taxi home. While waiting for the car, I felt a bit cold from the wind. Sensing the warmth beside me, I wanted to move closer and snuggle up. Leo chuckled softly, took off his jacket, and draped it over me. "Why are you wearing so little?" My drunken mind couldn't process what he was saying at all, so I just stared at him blankly. Under the dim streetlight, his gaze fell on my lips, and his Adam's apple bobbed. "Kathy, actually, I quite like you." I couldn't understand, just stared at him with drunken, blurry eyes. As if bewitched, he slowly lowered his head, leaning in with the scent of alcohol. "You have feelings for me too, right?" From an outsider's perspective, it looked like he was leaning down to kiss his girlfriend. I felt somewhat resistant to this unfamiliar scent and instinctively wanted to avoid it. The next moment, a strong force grabbed the back of my collar, and I fell into another warm embrace. Even though we had been apart for 5 years, I still recognized this familiar scent. "Mr. Lucas," Leo snapped back to reality and looked at us in surprise. "Do you know Kathy?" I leaned against him, drunk, and heard Lucas say, "Kathy." He playfully uttered this address, his gaze as cold as a sharp blade turning toward Leo. "Do you even deserve to call her that?" He drove me back to his home. Throughout the journey, Lucas's mood was heavy, and I sensed danger. Instinctively, I wanted to run, but he grabbed my wrist and held me tightly in his arms. As soon as I entered the house, I tried to escape again, unwilling to give up. Lucas seemed to be both amused and angered, pulling me closer by the hand. Half of his face was hidden in the darkness, his expression obscure and unclear, exuding an increasingly domineering sense of aggression. The next second, Lucas grabbed my neck and kissed me. A slight sense of suffocation washed over me, his refined and dignified facade torn away, revealing the aggression hidden deep within. "Just like 5 years ago, still like a reckless mad dog. The wildness in your bones has never changed, but the moment you speak, it sounds more like a wounded whimper. Kathy, I really hate you. Why can he treat you like that? What part of me is not as good as him?" Until a stinging sensation spread on my lips. The taste of iron filled my mouth. In pain, I tried to push him away. My muddled mind finally cleared for a moment as I stared in disbelief at the scene before me. Lucas was living happily with the female lead. So what did he mean by kissing me now? Did he find it thrilling to be with me like this? From the moment we reunited, I carefully coaxed him along. But now, after being inexplicably bitten by him, the grievances and confusion buried deep in my heart began to surface, thread by thread. Drunk and overwhelmed, I raised my hand and slapped him, my eyes reddening, his face tilted slightly to the side, and beneath his disheveled collar, bulging veins stood out. The room fell into complete silence. and a faint red mark gradually appeared on his face. It just dawned on me what I had done. The tears that had just welled up were scared back, and I took a slight step back. Lucas, is he angry? But after waiting for a long time, all I heard was an uncontrollable gasp. It doesn't feel like pain, more like pleasure. He coaxed me softly in a slightly hoarse voice, like hitting people. I'll let you hit this side of my face too. Did your hand hurt from slapping? Come here, let me take a look. For a moment, I thought I had gone back 5 years, to the days when we were still living in a rented apartment. I shook my head, put my hands behind my back, and just asked him, "Do you think this is fair to Kathy?" He frowned, his tone somewhat bewildered. "What does she have to do with this? Aren't you with her? Who told you we're together? She's just my assistant." I was a bit confused. "Just an assistant, don't you like her?" he said through gritted teeth. "No, what's going on in your head? Don't like it. My mind is a tangled mess. It's been 5 years, and he still hasn't fallen in love with the female lead." Seeing my bewildered expression, he helplessly pinched the bridge of his nose. "Forget it, I'm not talking to a drunk. We'll discuss this when you're sober tomorrow." The next day, I woke up in an unfamiliar large bed, my head inevitably aching from the hangover. No one was by the bedside. I rubbed my head while taking in the room. Fragmented memories from last night surfaced in my mind, and I casually recalled. At first, I was so annoyed by his biting that I slapped him and then asked him if he felt guilty about the female lead. What was his response again? "Who told you we were together? She's just my assistant." Me? Wait, he doesn't like the female lead. Didn't Lucas fall for the female lead? I finally realized that the plot has deviated significantly. Thinking back on Lucas's behavior these past few days, something always felt off. I always thought Lucas hated me and wanted revenge. Is his way of getting back at people by biting my mouth like a dog? That would be too cruel. A thought flashed through my mind, too fleeting to grasp. After thinking for a long time without understanding, I simply got up and went to find Lucas, intending to ask him directly. Then I found the door was locked. Did he lock it? It was then that I noticed a warm breakfast on the table by the bed. I was in a hurry to find him and ask for an explanation, so I ignored the breakfast and started searching the room, trying to find the key to get out. Finally, in the drawer, I found a locked box. It had a combination lock. I tried entering the password he often used before. Incorrect password. Enter his birthday. Incorrect password. I didn't believe it was that unlucky, and as if possessed, I entered my own birthday. The password was still incorrect. I started trying one by one, testing all the important dates to him. With a click, the lock opened. The password was 0918. I felt a bit dazed. It was the day I first met him after transmigrating into the book. Inside was a diary. Although it's a bit unethical to peek into someone else's diary, I never had much integrity to begin with. So I opened it without any guilt. September 18th, 1983. Someone inexplicably showed up at my door. What does she want? September 20th, 1983. She kept clinging to me, and I couldn't push her away. So annoying. September 21st, 1983. She actually dared to drug me. How annoying. Her lips are so soft. September 25th, 1983. Ordering me to serve her tea and water. Am I her servant? I refused, and she turned her head away from me. Finally, I bought her new clothes and prepared a 3-dish meal with soup. Finally managing to cheer her up, she smiled with curved eyes and kissed me. Do you love me that much? October 7th, 1983. This is getting more and more outrageous. She actually forced me to call her baby. Oh well, since she loves me so much, I'll indulge her a little more. October 27th, 1983. Baby, I love you too. I didn't write in my diary again for a long time after that. Until 2 years later, December 9th, 1985, she left, not even finishing the new year with me. She said she loved me. But it was all a lie. She looked down on me for being too poor. Yeah, I'm not worthy of her. December 9th, 1986. I hate him. June 9th, 1989. Why aren't you answering my calls? I have money now. So why is she still not answering my calls? Is she doing well? Has she found another man? July 10th, 1989. I can't find her. I hate her. I hate her to death. I hate her so much. August 11th, 1989. I hate her for abandoning me. I hate her for lying to me. I hate her for leaving so heartlessly. Hate that she doesn't love me. January 1st, 1990, I found her. After reading the last line, I was so frightened that my hand trembled, and the diary fell to the ground. The content of the diary hit me so hard that I stood there in a daze, staring fixedly at the notebook on the ground. Lucas loves me. Lucas has always loved me. My heart was beating faster and faster. I started reviewing his behavior over the past few days. He came to my doorstep because he was afraid I would let someone else stay overnight. He asked me if I was doing well because he cared about me. He was angry last night because I got drunk and almost kissed Leo. The more I think about it, the more frightened I become. Back then, I thought he really disliked me. So I ran away quickly, so hastily that many things were left unclear. And what did I do? I called him poor, complained that he was harsh, and abandoned him without a second thought. He gave me the phone, and I immediately threw away the SIM card. After 5 years of misunderstanding, it has finally been cleared up, yet I feel as if the sky has collapsed once again. I thought I had already let go of him, but now that I know all this, my heart uncontrollably beats for him again. I can't wait to talk things out with him, whether he can forgive me or not. But how do you coax Lucas, who has been angry for 5 years? I sat cross-legged on the floor, lost in thought for a long time, feeling a bit defeated. Relying on words alone definitely won't work. Maybe I should just use the old method. A key fell out of the diary. I tried it at the door, and surprisingly, it opened right away. Why did Lucas put the key in the diary? Without thinking too much, I quickly walked to the kitchen. The ingredients in the fridge were all fresh, and the equipment was fully stocked. Step 1 of coaxing someone: cook them a meal first. My cooking skills aren't as good as his, although the food I make looks nice. The taste is just average. When the table was finally set with dishes, the person who had been gone all day finally returned. I obediently sat at the table, smiling at him with curved eyes. You're back. Try the food I made. A look of confusion appeared on Lucas's calm expression. He walked to the table, looked at the spread of food, then at my smiling face, and frowned. Is there poison in the dish? He asked wearily. Do you dislike me that much? There's no poison. If you don't believe me, I'll eat it to prove it. I hurriedly took a bite of each dish to show him. He still frowned. Then why are you cooking for me? Because I'm trying to cheer you up. Cheer me up. Yes, yes. He used to cook a whole table of food to cheer me up when I was angry. But this time it was my turn. I looked at him expectantly, hoping he would ask me more. But Lucas seemed lost in thought and didn't say another word, quietly sitting down to start eating. Exactly 15 minutes later, he had already finished about half of his meal. I rested my chin on my hand and suddenly called out to him, Lucas, I really didn't poison you. He looked up at me. Yeah, I know, but I drugged you. Cough. What? I slowly moved closer to him, reached out to touch his neck, and repeated, I put something in the food. By my estimate, it should be taking effect around now. The calm surface of the lake finally rippled, and he looked at me in disbelief. Kathy, ignoring the warning in his voice, I boldly wrapped my arms around his neck. But I just ate with you too, Ollie. Hearing this address, his ears instantly turned bright red, and he stared straight at me. Do you know what you're doing right now? I sat on his lap, wrapped my arms around him, and nuzzled his face. I know, I'm comforting you. I saw that diary. Let's make up, okay? Actually, I love you too. As expected, he lowered his eyes self-deprecatingly. How do you plan to mess with me this time? Indeed, dealing with this kind of situation can't rely on words alone. Sometimes you have to get tough. His hands slowly moved downward. Let me help you, okay? He spoke for a moment, his dark eyes fixed intently on me. That feeling of being targeted by a beast returned. I shrank back, hesitating for a moment. If you're unwilling, I have an antidote. The next second, Lucas's large hand gripped my waist, and he kissed me as if giving up on himself. His other hand was gripping the back of my neck, a gesture of complete control. I closed my eyes and responded to him. Just before my consciousness faded, I heard him say, Baby, I won't let you go this time. When I woke up again, it was already the evening of the next day, lying in bed. Tears of regret streamed down my face as I finally understood the meaning of reaping what you sow. The person beside me still held my waist tightly. I couldn't resist kicking him. Lucas, why are you so fierce? He was woken up by me, his voice still hoarse from satisfaction, and he retorted, think I'm too harsh. I choked up, afraid he would bring up old grievances, and buried my head in the blanket, timidly saying, no, of course not, after making up. Lucas started preparing to transfer all his assets into my name. By the time I realized something was off, he had already drafted the contracts. I quickly stopped him, shocked and confused. What are you doing? He said matter-of-factly. It should be given to you anyway. Huh? I tried to understand. Why give it all to me? He lowered his gaze. You suddenly wanted to reconcile with me. Wasn't it because I have money now, baby? I have a lot of money now, and I won't let you leave me. My vision went dark. It's because I love you. Then why didn't you try to reconcile with me earlier? I thought you hated me and were going to fall in love with Kathy. Lucas laughed in disbelief. When did I ever say I hated you? He was speechless for a long moment before asking again. Then why do you think I like Kathy? This was a bit difficult to explain. My voice was muffled. Because she's the heroine of the group's favorite story. And you're the male lead. Destined to fall in love with her. Lucas found it absurd. Just because of this, don't underestimate it. This world is a book, and I've traveled into it from another world. It's really hard to change this kind of plot. I've read transmigration novels, and they all say the same thing. Lucas didn't seem to know whether to believe it or not. He lowered his head and gently pinched the plump flesh of my cheek that had grown back. Kathy, I don't mind being ordered around by you. And I don't find it annoying. I don't know if the plot can be changed, but my love for you will never change. Later, Lucas asked me what I was like in my original world and if I had any family. I shook my head. My parents passed away when I was very young. There's nothing to miss. Back then, I stumbled and grew up all alone, becoming selfish. My first instinct when facing danger was to run. My only obsession was to survive. After hearing this, Lucas gently kissed my eyes and brows. We held each other, like little animals seeking warmth from one another. It's okay, Kathy, we have a home now too. From now on, year after year, we will have a home. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. On my 20th birthday, my boyfriend gathered a group of people to celebrate for me. After drinking a glass of alcohol, my body felt unusually hot. I must have been drugged. I forced myself to endure the discomfort and went to look for him, only to overhear his conversation with someone else at the corner of the KTV hallway. I don't believe in matching social status. I only believe in myself. Sarah, I will definitely make you the future lady of the Clark Corporation. As for Lisa, after tonight, the Academy's website will be filled with her wild behavior, turning her into a joke that I can manipulate at will. My vision went black. This was the man I had loved for 3 years, with no way out. I trembled and dialed the number saved as Uncle. On the other end of the line was that man, always aloof and self-restrained, 10 years my senior. Uncle, I feel so uncomfortable. I want. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, followed by his low, suppressed voice, as if rolling with magma. Be good, send me your location, stay where you are, I'll come get you. Dazzling lights spun around me as I was roughly shoved onto the plush sofa in the private room. My head spun, and my mouth felt parched. It felt as if a nameless fire had ignited inside my body. I unconsciously began tearing at the collar of my dress, longing for a cool breeze to take away the burning heat on my skin. I also hoped to press against someone's cool skin to ease the inexplicable fire raging through my body. Oh, you little minx, can't wait anymore. Big Brother is here to take care of you. A strange voice exploded in my ear, instantly pulling me back to my senses. No, I've been drugged. Today is my 20th birthday. Who would want to ruin me like this? A strange man was pressing down on me, shamelessly tearing at my dress. I bit my lip hard until I tasted blood, which brought me a moment of clarity. Grabbing the bottle opener from the coffee table, I used all my strength to smash it against his forehead. A muffled groan. The man covered his head, blood trickling through his fingers. I pushed him away, clutching my torn dress as I desperately fled outside. Call the police? No, in my current state, I'd just be mistaken for a couple that went too far. There's no way to explain it clearly. Go home. Even worse, it would only make my parents worry and break down. The effects of the drug were getting stronger. leaning against the wall. I stumbled out of the KTV, the cold wind made me shiver, but the fire inside me burned even more fiercely. Now, I have only one choice, Uncle who just returned from a mission. Lucas, Uncle's house is not far from here. He is the soldier my father is most proud of, the closest comrade in arms, and the elder who watched me grow up, but he just returned from a mission overseas, and we haven't seen each other for almost a year. He is also the kind of man who is strict with himself, exuding the iron-willed spirit of a soldier. If he were to see me in this state, behind, Charles's cursing and footsteps faintly came through. He in the compartment also noticed my intention, trying to run. Sarah, quick, don't let her get away. The phone is still recording. Don't worry, Charles, I'm keeping an eye on her. The Sarah I had always considered my best friend was full of excitement in her voice. I could no longer care about anything else. With a determined heart, I rushed into the darkness. With trembling hands, I pressed the doorbell. Almost instantly, the door opened. The unique scent of him, cold and clean like a pine forest after snow, rushed toward me. I stood at the doorway, feeling uneasy as I gazed at the tall, straight figure of the man before me. It had been a year since we last met, and my uncle's features were sharper than I remembered, strikingly handsome yet aggressive. His nose was high-bridged, his lips thin and tightly pressed. The moment our eyes met, I couldn't help but shiver. My blood felt like ignited gasoline, exploding in an instant, a tingling itch seeping through my entire body. Every inch of my body felt as if ants were gnawing at it. I clutched the torn hem of my skirt in agony, and as soon as I spoke, my voice came out so soft it could drip water. Uncle, I feel so uncomfortable, so hot. My uncle, who had always been as cold as an iceberg, stared fixedly at me, his dark pupils reflecting my disheveled state. Her face was flushed, her eyes misty, and her clothes were disheveled, utterly depraved. The door slammed shut. He pulled me into the room abruptly. The moment our skin touched, the cool sensation of his arm made me let out a satisfied sigh. I instantly lost all strength, my entire body hanging onto him. Instinctively, I nuzzled against him, eagerly seeking this rare coolness. From outside the door came Charles's chasing voice. Strange, where is she? I just saw her run into this building. My uncle held me with one arm while picking up his phone with the other, his voice as cold as ice. Hello, is this the XX District Police Station? Someone is causing trouble in the military family apartment area. Only when I got closer could I hear the suppressed tremor in his throat. After a few words, he hung up the phone. Soon, the sound of police sirens came from downstairs, and the voices of Charles and the others faded away. The danger has been lifted, and I leaned into Lucas's embrace, clutching the collar of his training uniform tightly, continuously burrowing deeper into his arms, greedily drawing in the coolness from his body. His firm waist, honed through years of training, now held a deadly allure. Going further down, a suppressed groan. My hand was tightly pressed down by his scorching palm. My heart is beating so fast. In an instant, the world spun around, and the skirt fluttered wildly. Lucas carried me to the bed, his movements gentle and restrained, but his eyes seemed as if they wanted to devour me whole. He reached out with his slender hand and touched my forehead. His Adam's apple bobbed intensely. Lisa, why are you so feverish? Don't move. Uncle is getting the thermometer. I shook my head uncomfortably. The effects of the medicine made me feel as if I were burning, and I could only beg him tearfully. Uncle, I need. Lucas looked at me, his throat tight. The pads of his fingers, bearing the thin calluses from years of holding a gun, rested on my wrist. The rough texture made my heart itch with unease. A moment later, he released my hand, his breath unsteady, and abruptly closed in. His unique masculine scent rushed into my nostrils, and his tall figure cast a shadow over me. And under his presence, I melted into a puddle of spring water. Lisa, you've been drugged. What a massive dose. Don't be afraid. Little uncle is going to buy medicine, otherwise, it will cause permanent damage to the nervous system. His hoarse voice reached my ears, making my heart flutter. I had no mind to listen to what he was saying. All my attention was fixed on his thin lips as they moved. The color of his lips was extremely pale, yet they were irresistibly alluring. Just a slight lift of the head, and I could kiss him. I swallowed hard and wrapped my arms around Lucas's neck. In his suddenly constricted pupils, I saw my own reflection, my long hair cascading like a waterfall, spread across the white pillow, just like a little enchantress. She was completely different from her usual quiet and well-behaved self. As soon as she spoke, her voice was captivating. Uncle, want, Lucas held my waist with one hand, the other hand caressed my face. Every movement sent a shiver through me. His eyes were also filled with desire. Do you know who I am, Lisa? Yes, it's Uncle, it's Lucas. Good girl, Lisa, whatever you want, Uncle will give it to you. The morning light pierced through the gap in the curtains, falling on the face. A splitting headache like a hangover. Memories from last night flooded in like a tide, fragmented yet incredibly vivid. Lucas's burning body temperature, his suppressed gasps, and my shameless demands. My cheeks instantly burned hot, and I abruptly sat up from the bed, nearly drowning in shame. The room was empty, the air still carried the lingering scent of his cold pine fragrance and the smell of the tobacco he had lit. He left. A sudden emptiness welled up in my heart. On the bedside table, there was a glass of warm water and a strip of pills. Next to them, a note was pressed down. The handwriting is sharp and forceful, penetrating the paper, a testament to his military bearing. Take the medicine when you wake up and rest well. On the chair beside me, a brand new dress and underwear were draped over the back, their tags still attached. My face grew even warmer. I fled my uncle's house as if escaping and returned to school. The moment I stepped through the school gate, I keenly sensed that something was amiss. The surrounding gazes felt like venomous needles, densely piercing into me. Those hushed whispers buzzed like countless flies, drilling into my ears. Look, that's her, Lisa. I heard she was really wild at the karaoke last night, with several guys. Charles is really unlucky to have such a promiscuous girlfriend. My blood ran cold. Charles's actions were faster and more ruthless than I had imagined. I clenched my fists and quickened my pace, wanting only to return to the dormitory, my only safe haven. However, just as I reached the foot of the teaching building, a group of people blocked my way. At the head of the group was Charles. He had dark circles under his eyes, a conspicuous bandage on his forehead, and looked utterly exhausted. Beside him, Sarah was supporting him with a heartbroken expression, and when she saw me, a flicker of triumph quickly flashed in her eyes. When Charles saw me, it was as if he had laid eyes on something filthy, his gaze filled with disgust and anguish. He pointed at me, his voice trembling with agitation, as though he were the one who had been wronged. Lisa, how dare you show your face here again? The crowd instantly erupted into an uproar, with everyone's eyes fixed on me. I stared coldly at his pathetic performance, but as if stung by my gaze, he suddenly took a step forward and shouted hoarsely, "You spent the night fooling around with some random guy. What do you have to say for yourself now? I love you so much, and this is how you treat me. I've already reported this to the advisor. The school must severely punish a student with such corrupt morals." Each sentence felt like a poisoned dagger, piercing straight into my heart. The surrounding pointing and whispering turned into an impenetrable net. I felt cold all over, trembling with anger. This was the man I had loved for 3 years, twisting the truth, utterly shameless, under everyone's gaze. I suddenly calmed down, facing his hypocritical face. I curled a cold smile. "Oh, really? Then let's call the police." As soon as I finished speaking, the air seemed to freeze for a moment. Charles's face turned beet red, clearly not expecting me to act this way. The murmurs of the crowd were like a handful of salt thrown into boiling oil, instantly erupting. "Call the police. She dares to call the police. She must be guilty, trying to scare people this way." Just then, a middle-aged woman wearing glasses pushed through the crowd and walked in. It was our academic advisor. Her face was full of frustration at my lack of ambition, her stern gaze fixed on me. "Lisa, come back to the office with me." The appearance of the counselor was like a shot of adrenaline for Charles. He immediately put on a look of deep regret, pointed at me, and his voice even carried a sob. "Advisor, you came just in time. I never expected Lisa to be this kind of person. I'm so disappointed in her." Sarah, who was standing beside him, immediately chimed in, whispering to those around, "Charles is just too kind-hearted, which is why he was deceived so badly by her." Their coordinated remarks pinned me to the pillar of shame. The advisor's expression grew increasingly grim, and the way he looked at me was as if I were some irredeemable piece of trash. My heart sank inch by inch into the icy abyss. this is what it feels like to be unable to defend oneself. Just as I was about to be crushed by the invisible pressure, a voice as cold as ice pierced through all the noise. Who dares to take her away? The crowd automatically parted to make way. A tall, straight figure approached against the light, his military boots striking the ground with a steady and powerful sound. Each step seemed to land right on the hearts of everyone present. It was Lucas. He had changed into a crisp military uniform, the epaulets gleaming with a golden sheen in the sunlight. His handsome, sharp face was covered with a layer of frost, and his gaze swept across the room like a blade. The noisy crowd instantly fell silent. The smug look on Charles's face froze. The counselor also froze in place. Instinctively pushing up his glasses, Lucas walked straight up to me without looking around, his tall figure completely enveloping me, blocking out all the unfriendly gazes. He didn't even glance at Charles, keeping his gaze fixed on the counselor, his tone calm yet carrying an undeniable authority. "I am Lisa's uncle." Then, he took out a neatly folded piece of paper and handed it to the counselor. "This is her emergency medical record from the General Military Hospital last night. Febrile seizures caused by acute allergies. Would you like me to call the attending physician to confront you in person?" The counselor's face instantly turned pale. Charles opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word. Lucas then turned his gaze toward me, and the icy look in his eyes softened slightly the moment they met mine. He took out another velvet box and opened it in front of me. Inside is a Patek Philippe lady's watch. "Lisa, this is a belated birthday gift. Last night, when I went to deliver the gift to her, I found out she had a food allergy. The situation was urgent, so I personally took her to the hospital. The logic is flawless." Charles's face turned from pale to blue, then from blue to black, a truly spectacular sight. The atmosphere around them instantly shifted. So it was a food allergy after all. I almost wronged an innocent person. I always said Lisa wasn't that kind of person. Charles really knows how to spin a story. Lucas's slender fingers gently rested on my shoulder, the scorching warmth seeping through the thin fabric. I trembled all over, clearly realizing he had used a perfect lie to get me out of the situation. This lie belonged only to the two of us. The surrounding murmurs turned into a fearful silence. Lucas placed his hand on my shoulder, the scorching warmth seeping through the fabric, steadying my faltering body. Without looking at anyone else, he led me through the parting crowd. Once we were inside his black SUV, the moment the door closed, it shut out all prying eyes from the outside. The interior of the car felt cramped, and his cold, pine-like scent, mixed with a faint hint of tobacco, enveloped me completely. It was the same scent from last night. My cheeks flushed uncontrollably. No one spoke, and a stifling silence fermented inside the car. After a long while, he lit a cigarette but didn't smoke it, just held it between his fingers, letting the pale smoke curl and drift. "Lisa," he finally spoke, his voice much hoarser than it had been in front of the crowd earlier. "What happened last night? I was worse than an animal." My heart skipped a beat, and I abruptly looked up at him. He wasn't looking at me. The lines of his profile appeared especially rigid in the flickering firelight, and also, especially pained. "I've watched you grow up, from elementary school until now," I told myself. "I'm your elder, your uncle." This line, I must not cross. His voice was very low, as if he were stating something unrelated to himself. But the slight trembling of his knuckles betrayed his surging emotions. "I applied to go to the most dangerous war zones just to dig you out of my mind. I thought that as long as I was far enough away and enough time passed, I would eventually forget." The shifting light outside the car window swept over his handsome brow, casting a shadow of gloom. "But with just one phone call from you, one sentence saying, 'Uncle, I'm not feeling well.'" He abruptly stubbed out the cigarette butt in the car's ashtray, producing a sharp, faint sound. All my defenses instantly crumbled. With a sudden roar, my mind went completely blank. It turns out that his distance all those years was not due to dislike. Behind his strict self-discipline lay such overwhelming affection. The absurdity and shame of last night were redefined by his words in this moment. It was not an accident, but a long-planned loss of control. My heart was beating so fast and erratically, as if it were about to leap out of my throat. Dependence, gratitude, and an indescribable, inexplicable thrill were growing wildly within me. The carriage fell into a deathly silence once again. He was like a sculpture that had exhausted all its strength, leaning back in his seat with his eyes tightly shut, his Adam's apple bobbing. His entire body exuding an overwhelming sense of defeat and desolation. I looked at him. At this man who had built a sky of lies for me, at this man who endured the torment of love and desire alone. Somewhere in my heart, it hurt terribly. I reached out my hand, trembling, and gently covered his tightly clenched fist resting on the gear shift. He shuddered violently, as if scalded, and abruptly opened his eyes. In those pitch-black pupils, there was shock, restraint, and a deep, unfathomable vortex I couldn't understand, as if it were about to pull me in. I didn't back away. Instead, I met his gaze and asked softly, in a voice only the two of us could hear, "Uncle, all these years, have you been in pain?" My words fell in that cramped car like a needle, piercing through his tightly held facade. Lucas's body stiffened abruptly, his tightly shut eyes suddenly flew open, revealing a stormy sea of turbulent waves, a chasm of 10 years of suppressed emotions. He didn't answer. The air grew still. Even the scent of smoke from his fingers seemed to freeze. The next second, his large hand gripping my wrist tightened abruptly, while his other hand suddenly seized my chin, forcing me to lift my head. Everything that belonged to him, his scent, his presence, overwhelmed me like a tidal wave. This kiss, with a punishing force, crushed against my lips, pried open my teeth, and plundered every breath I had. It was not gentle, nor was it tentative. It was a loss of control, a declaration, a man's volcanic eruption of possession after 10 years of restraint. I didn't struggle, letting myself sink into this storm. With an equally out-of-control kiss, I gave him the answer. A week later, a financial news story rocked the entire business school. The Clark Group has been reported under real names, suspected of massive financial fraud and tax evasion. All core accounting evidence is conclusive. The listing plan has been completely suspended, and the case has been taken over by the Economic Crime Investigation Department. On the screen, the stock of the Clark Group was a sea of dismal green, plummeting sharply. In the dormitory, Sarah's cries could be heard even through the door. My phone buzzed with a hysterical text message from Charles. "Lisa, it was you, wasn't it, you bitch? Who's behind you? I beg you, please spare my family. I'll even kneel for you." I looked at those words, expressionless, and pressed the delete key. Not a single ripple. I just calmly packed my things, walked out of the school gate, and headed to the military apartment that was becoming increasingly familiar to me. The doorbell only rang once before the door opened. Lucas was wearing a simple black t-shirt and military green trousers, his figure as straight and tall as a pine tree. The sharp, cold edge about him was gone, replaced by a gentle, homely warmth. When he saw me, a hint of a smile flickered in his dark eyes, and he naturally took the bag from my hand. "You're back," I nodded, changed into the women's slippers he had prepared, and followed him into the living room. On the coffee table sat a laptop, its screen displaying that glaring news about the Clark Group. He didn't turn it off, nor did he offer any explanation, as if it were just an insignificant weather forecast. I walked up to him and looked up at his face. I saw what happened at Charles's house. Lucas's gaze fell on my face, the emotions in his deep eyes hard to decipher. He reached out, his fingertips gently caressing my cheek, the movement as tender as if handling a rare treasure. He touched someone he shouldn't have. His voice was faint, yet carried an undeniable tone of judgment. He leaned in slightly, his tall figure completely enveloping me, his warm breath brushing against my ear. "Lisa, in this world, no one is allowed to make you feel wronged. Not in the past, not now, and even less so in the future." My heart trembled, and I reached out my arms to wrap around his sturdy waist. I buried my face in his chest, which carried the scent of soap, and listened to his steady, powerful heartbeat. This time, I didn't run away. I buried myself in his chest, greedily drawing in the sense of security that belonged only to me. I don't know how long it had been when Lucas finally released me, took my hand, and led me to sit on the sofa. The laptop with its glowing screen was right in front of us. "Want to know how I did it?" he asked. I nodded, but my heart was pounding uncontrollably. He didn't give a long speech, just scrolled up the news on the screen, revealing the media signature of the financial report. Below that, there was also a very small, almost unnoticeable investor logo, a gilded Lincoln character, the Lincoln family of J City. He uttered 4 words, like dropping a depth charge into the tranquil lake of my heart. "Did your father never mention it to you?" My mind buzzed, and for a moment, it went completely blank. The Lincoln family of J City, that colossal entity that existed only in legends, capable of shaking the entire business world with a mere stomp of their feet, it turns out, the man I've known for 10 years, my uncle, is actually, I looked at him, the man before me still had that familiar handsome face, yet he seemed enveloped in an unfamiliar, awe-inspiring aura, dealing with someone like Charles. He met my shocked gaze, his thumb gently brushing the corner of my mouth, his eyes as deep as the ocean. You can't just give him a warning, that will only make him think you're weak and easy to bully. You have to strike a fatal blow, ensuring he never recovers, never appears before you again to taint your sight. His voice was very soft, yet it carried a ruthless determination to eliminate the problem at its root. Just then, a news notification popped up in the lower right corner of the computer screen. The headline was glaringly eye-catching: latest development in the Clark case, victim's best friend Sarah turns against, provides key evidence of Charles, the young master of the Clark Group's decadent private life. In the photo, Sarah was crying pitifully, surrounded by a group of reporters. She actually betrayed Charles. I instinctively looked at Lucas. He only glanced briefly, his dark pupils showing no ripple of emotion, as if he had long anticipated all of this. He reached out and closed the notebook with a sharp snap, shutting out all the noise and ugliness from the outside. The next second, he grabbed my chin, forcing me to lift my head and meet his gaze. His presence enveloped me, overwhelmingly so. Lisa, I'll take care of the trash sorting, you only need to. His scorching lips pressed against my forehead, his voice low and hoarse, carrying an undeniable declaration: just look at me. After that, I moved into Lucas's apartment. Charles and Sarah, like two specks of dust blown away by the wind, never appeared in my world again, and between Lucas and me, that forbidden, ambiguous barrier was torn down by his own hands, and everything became natural. He would ask me the night before what I wanted to eat the next day, and by the time I was still lazing in bed, the aroma of food would already be wafting from the kitchen. He would silently carry me to the sofa in the study, then sit beside me handling military documents I couldn't understand, letting me rest my head on his lap while I watched movies. The air was no longer filled with tension, but rather a suffocating, almost overwhelming tenderness. Over the weekend, he drove me back to the Lincoln family's old house. It was a traditional courtyard house hidden deep in the outskirts of Beijing, simple yet dignified, with armed guards standing at the entrance. It was only then that I belatedly realized, the uncle I thought I knew and the Lucas I truly had were from two entirely different worlds. His parents, a couple with a gentle and refined demeanor, showed no surprise when they saw me. Lucas's mother took my hand, her eyes slightly red, her voice filled with compassion. My dear child, you've suffered so much over the years. I froze on the spot. Lucas wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on the top of my head, his voice softer than ever before. Dad, Mom, this is Lisa, my fiancée. After returning from Lincoln's house, I felt as if I were walking on clouds. Happiness came too quickly, too abundantly, making it feel almost unreal. On Wednesday afternoon, I went alone to the school library to return books. When I walked out of the school gate, the sky had already grown somewhat dim. Just as I turned into the path leading to my apartment, a black van abruptly stopped in front of me, and the door was pulled open with a loud clatter. Before I could react, a rough, large hand suddenly covered my mouth and nose. A pungent chemical odor instantly invaded my breath. I only had time to let out a short whimper before my consciousness plunged into boundless darkness. When I woke up again, I was in an abandoned warehouse. My hands and feet were tied to a chair with coarse hemp rope, cutting painfully into my skin. The air was filled with the smell of rust and dust. A figure emerged from the shadows, backlit so I couldn't see his face clearly, only his frenzied, distorted silhouette. Lisa, you're awake. This voice, it's Charles. He looked much more haggard than the last time we met, with deep-set eye sockets, greasy hair sticking to his forehead, and a gaze filled with venomous madness. He stepped closer, dragging an iron barrel that dripped gasoline. Aren't you surprised that I still have the nerve to come find you? He laughed, his voice hoarse and unpleasant, like an old, broken bellows. I've lost everything, my family is destroyed, and I'm left wandering the streets, all thanks to you and your dear little uncle. I struggled, a low growl of anger escaping my throat. He seemed to relish my misery, suddenly kicking my chair with force. "Don't worry, soon enough, he'll be joining me." He crouched down. That face that once made my heart flutter now only held ferocity. I reported him, using his power for personal gain. Abusing his authority, leveraging military connections to suppress private enterprises, evidence, I fabricated some, and since he did indeed take action, the higher-ups would rather kill by mistake than let him go. He is currently under internal investigation. Soon, he will be stripped of his uniform, removed from all positions, and become a prisoner despised by everyone. My blood froze inch by inch at that moment. A fear deeper than death swept over me overwhelmingly. My heart pounded violently in my chest, not because I was in danger, but because of him. How could Lucas? Because of me. Despair surged like a tide, almost drowning me. At that moment, a sharp siren sound grew from far to near, abruptly piercing the silence outside the warehouse. Charles's face instantly turned deathly pale. He jerked his head around, his eyes filled with the desperation of a cornered animal. He lifted the iron bucket and screamed hysterically, "It's too late. I'm going to take you all down with me." Just as he was about to splash the gasoline on me, the iron door of the warehouse was slammed open with a deafening crash, forced by a tremendous impact. Blindingly bright light instantly flooded in, accompanied by rapid and powerful footsteps. A tall figure stood silhouetted against the light, the golden gleam on his shoulder insignia shimmering in the dust. It was Lucas. His handsome and sharp features were now covered in a layer of frost, his dark pupils burning with two raging fires, filled with a fury that could destroy the world. The special police officers behind him rushed in with trained precision, instantly taking control of the situation. Charles froze in place, the iron bucket in his hand clattering to the ground, gasoline splattering everywhere. He stood like a statue, his eyes filled with nothing but boundless fear. Lucas didn't even glance at him, walking straight toward me. He knelt on one knee, his slender fingers deftly and swiftly untying the ropes around my wrists. The rough hemp had left red marks on my skin, and he gently caressed them, his eyes filled with such heartache that it nearly drowned me. "Lisa, it's all right now." His voice carried a barely noticeable tremor as he held me tightly in his arms. The familiar, comforting scent of pine enveloped me, driving away all the fear and cold. I clutched the collar of his training uniform, burying my face in his broad chest, greedily absorbing the warmth I had thought was lost. Aren't you under investigation?" I asked with a choked voice, my tone hoarse. He patted my back gently, his deep voice resonating beside my ear. "Silly, that was just a trick to lure the snake out of its hole." I looked up abruptly, meeting his profound gaze. The light in his eyes was sharper than usual, carrying a subtle, calculated intent. "I received intelligence that Charles has been secretly gathering information about me, trying to get revenge," he said nonchalantly, as if merely discussing the weather. "Since he wants to play, I'll join him in a big game." His voice was steady, yet it carried an undeniable ruthlessness. Only then did I realize that he had never been passive. From beginning to end, he was the one setting the stage. As Charles was taken away by the SWAT team, he was still cursing under his breath, his voice quickly fading outside the warehouse. Lucas carried me to the car and used the first aid kit to treat the rope burns on my wrists. His movements were gentle, his gaze focused, as if handling a fragile treasure. "Sarah," I hesitated, the image of her crying on the news flashing through my mind. Why did she betray Charles? Lucas paused his movements, looked up at me, his gaze deep. She wasn't betraying him. She was seeking revenge, he briefly explained. The Smith and Clark families were originally old friends. Many years ago, Charles's father, in order to take over the Smith family's business, set a trap to frame them, leading to the Smith family's downfall. Sarah's parents, unable to bear the burden, passed away one after another. I widened my eyes in shock. So Sarah got close to Charles for this reason. Sarah has endured for years, just for this day. Lucas's voice held no trace of pity, only a statement of fact. She's been collecting evidence of the Clark family's crimes all along, but just couldn't find the right opportunity. He leaned in slightly, his warm breath brushing against my ear as he whispered with an almost mesmerizing tone, "I merely went with the flow and gave her an opportunity to accelerate her revenge." I looked at him, at his calm yet immensely powerful face. He wasn't the type of soldier who relied solely on brute force. His wisdom and strategic mind were even more unfathomable than his physical skills. he was like a master player standing outside the chessboard, quietly observing everyone's performance, and then, at the most opportune moment, gently moving a piece to settle everything. I leaned involuntarily, resting my head on his shoulder. "Uncle," I called out to him softly. He tightened his arms, holding me even closer. Back at the apartment, Lucas didn't turn on the lights. He placed me on the living room sofa and knelt down in front of me, using the moonlight streaming through the window to carefully trace the contours of my eyes and brows. In those deep pupils, waves of lingering fear and the ecstasy of recovery surged. "Lisa," he spoke, his voice terribly hoarse, as if scraped by sandpaper. "Marry me," not a question, but a statement, like an unyielding military command. Yet carrying the most humble plea, my heart thumped heavily in my chest, sending a numbing tremor through every limb. Tears fell without warning, and I nodded vigorously, throwing myself into his arms. "Okay, one word is the most resolute answer of my life." He held me even tighter, with a force so great it felt as if he wanted to meld me into his very bones and blood. 3 days later, Lucas took me back to my home. My parents sat on the sofa, looking at us standing side by side with complicated expressions. My mother's eyes reddened first, holding my hand, tears falling silently, yet she couldn't utter a single word. My father, that always stern and resolute soldier, looked at his most proud soldier, his best comrade, who was now holding his only daughter's hand. He remained silent for a long time, lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and then slowly exhaled the smoke ring. The air was filled with a heavy atmosphere. Finally, he looked at Lucas, his eyes filled with relief, emotion, and a touch of a father's helplessness. "Lucas," my father spoke in a low voice, "so from now on, will you call me brother or dad?" With that one sentence, the heavy atmosphere in the room instantly dissipated. My mother broke into a smile through her tears and gave my father a playful punch. Lucas stood up straight, faced my father with great seriousness, and called out clearly and loudly, "Dad." Extra story. He took my hand and led me into his study. He walked over to the desk, used a small key to unlock the bottommost drawer that was locked. I thought it would contain some confidential documents inside, but what he pulled out was a thick stack of photos. The first one was of a girl in a school uniform, sitting by the window, with the sunlight casting a golden glow on the tips of her hair. The second one was of me at 18, making a wish in front of a birthday cake, the candlelight flickering in my eyes, one after another, from elementary school to university. All of them were me. My breath hitched, and my heart felt as if it were being gripped by a warm, large hand, aching and burning. It turns out that, throughout the long years I was unaware, he had already loved me for so long. Lucas embraced me from behind, his solid chest pressed against my back, his chin gently resting on the top of my head, his warm breath brushed against my ear, his voice low and lingering, like the final resonance of a cello. "Lisa, you were once a presence I didn't dare to imagine. Every time you called me uncle, it made me afraid to cross the line." I turned around, stood on my tiptoes, and tried to kiss his lips, but I can't reach. He lifted me by the waist, and I wrapped my legs around his. "Then don't call me little uncle, call me husband." Lucas carried me into the bedroom with long strides. He took me again and again. "I can't write anymore, or I'll be locked in the dark room." After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.